Please explain specifically what you have seen on the field that gives you hope in Trey Lance. Not his arm is so strong or he has such raw potential. I mean, he does X so well and Y better than the others. Okay, well, let's go back to college and then we'll parlay that into the NFL a little bit. Um, he's a tireless studier. And not only that, not all quarterbacks have this. A lot of quarterbacks can gain knowledge of the game, but not all quarterbacks have like a photographic memory. And Joe Montana had it. I believe Trey Lance has it. If you ask him after a press conference, he just rattles off exactly what happened. And LeBron James is a really good example of this, by the way. A lot of people talk about LeBron James physically, but when you ask him, like, hey, there was 3 minutes left in the third quarter and this happened, he can tell you the whole sequence and why it happened, what everybody was doing on the play. You hear that from Trey Lance, and that all stems back to college. When he was a freshman, he wasn't playing, but he would study NFL game film late into the night. And his friends are like, what are you doing? And he's like, I got to get ready to play these guys at the next level. I want to be prepared for that. So you see that show up in college. One of the few quarterbacks who played under center on a regular basis, 39%. Then he called his own audibles. He called his own like hot routes. He called his own protections at the line, everything. They had a verbose playbook, much like an NFL playbook. He learned that in and out. His team would huddle, unlike a lot of these college teams where they look over the sideline, they see some pictures, and they go and make a play. He actually had to huddle, all those things. So he had a lot of the things that Kyle Shanahan liked, and that's why really I thought he would be the right pick, because I figured, well, Kyle Shanahan's going to treat him like an actual quarterback here. And really the game plan I had for Trey Lance to develop him, a lot of people talk about, well, they had to run him because they didn't trust him as a thrower. If you remember the way that Mike Shanahan developed or used Jake Plummer, that's how I envisioned them using Trey Lance. Use his athleticism, but use it behind the line of scrimmage. Give him options. Give him high-low reads with the option to run. Develop him that way. Move the pocket, move the launch point, and make the game a little bit easier on him as he's getting used to what he can get away with in the NFL. And if you notice in that game this last weekend, that's what they started to do when he would have success. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that was the right approach to do from day one. They chose not to do that. As far as what I like about him in the NFL and what I've seen, you've seen micro progressions from him in a very, very fast standpoint. He hasn't played a lot of football, but if you go year 1 to year 2, he steps up in the pocket very, very well. You get a defender that comes around an edge that gets a hand on a shoulder, he's able to shrug it off, keep both hands on the ball, keeps his eyes downfield, and will throw the ball. When you look at him, if he approaches the line of scrimmage, a lot of people are like, man, he gets ran down by defensive ends and stuff like that. I saw that. That was one of the comments that came out this last week. That's because he's not running full bore. He literally, as he escapes the pocket, he flips his hips and he's constantly looking to throw as he's approaching the line of scrimmage. I love that. He's looking to be a quarterback and make a play downfield. So I love that about him. But also, you're seeing those micro improvements. And I compare him to Justin Fields in this sense because what Justin Fields did was really, really good. What Trey did was even better. Justin Fields had a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers where they kept running this cover 2 kind of invert robber thing on him, and they confused the hell out of him to the tune of like 2 or 3 picks, couple drop picks. They couldn't move the ball. And that was fine. Like, he was a rookie. What I loved about Justin Fields, though, is that the very next week they played the Green Bay Packers. They tried to run the same thing and it didn't work. Justin Fields looked at the film, learned from it, also a very smart player, learned from it, and didn't get fooled the next week when he saw it. That's really, really good stuff, especially from a rookie. Trey Lance is doing this mid-game. The Texans game is a great example of this, and I wish I had the film to actually show you the plays because then it would put a picture with it. But there are 2 or 3 plays early in that game where the Texans kind of fooled Trey Lance, which is going to happen. He's a rookie. They fooled him. The 49ers ran a specific concept against a Texans specific concept, and it fooled them. Later in that same game, so not, hey, a week later, we're watching film, not, a couple weeks later, because he hasn't had that. Literally later in that same game, those same concepts were called by Shanahan. The same defensive concepts happened from the Texans, and he cashed in. He wasn't fooled. So it's great when a rookie can do it from one game to the next and learn. Like, that's really high level. It's a whole different thing when they can do it in the same game, especially for a guy that hadn't played, but that was his second start. So in the same game to make those changes, that shows that he's playing the game at a really high mental level. And then I would say the last thing that I've seen from him, which can be a blessing and a curse, is that he does protect the football. I hate poor decision-making quarterbacks. He is not that. He has not been a poor decision maker, but he's almost too protective. And Flav talked about that as well. There's a fine balance. So I want to see him maybe be a little bit more aggressive. But I do love that he has the innate ability and a protect the football first mentality. So hopefully that was in depth enough for you. I tried not to use the strong arm stuff, although I think that's a bonus as well. But yeah, that's what I've seen from Trey Lance.